Good evening, everybody. I'd like to first thank the Yael Shul and the Kehillah for allowing us to use their shul once again. I just want to mention, in my line of work, I run into non-Jews who want to be Jewish, and they understand that being Jewish is a privilege and a great responsibility. And I also meet Jews with little or no background. Some are in a state of complete denial, as I once was. But there's a spark that never dies, called a pintul yid. Sometimes life's experiences cause it to awaken. It could be the environment, anti-Semitism, sometimes it's being around a great tzaddik, or just visiting Eretz Yisrael can awaken this spark. But it's there and it never dies. Noah Weinberg once told me, the Almighty that spoke and created the world, who took us out of Egypt, He fed us, clothed us, protected us in the desert. He's the one who plucks us out of our own man-made Egyptian bondage and brings us to freedom. He handpicks us one by one out of Chutz La'aretz and brings us to Eretz Yisrael to be close to Him. He told me in the name of the Chofetz Chaim, anyone who grew up religious, could have been the biggest Rosh Yeshiva, the sons, the family of the Rosh Yeshivas, the big tzaddikim, the righteous people who are from Chutz La'aretz. If they come to Eretz Yisrael, they have the din, the status of a Baal Tshuva. It looks like this crowd is mostly from Chutz La'aretz, so this applies to us. We have tonight a very special couple who found their way home. The Rabbeinu Yonah points out in the Shar Tshuva that if someone is in the process of Tshuva and they want to complete their Tshuva, have a shlimut, he says that one needs to bring somebody with you. You don't do this alone. It's a communal thing, and alone, it just doesn't work. It's like a prerequisite. You need to bring someone along with you and help raise others to the same madriga. I pray tonight that our nation awakens and yearns for that intimate relationship with the Creator of the universe. Chazak v'amatz, that we should stay strong, we should be courageous, follow the ways of Torah and mitzvahs, and with that we should merit the coming of the Mashiach, to came to Yemenu, and the ingathering of the exiles and rebuilding of the Beit HaMikdash. And without any further ado, I want to introduce Israel. Thank you very much.
Rabbi Poston, thank you. First of all, thank you for the beautiful introduction, and thank you for inviting us to your beautiful shul, which I'm not saying it is a beautiful shul. That's why I'm saying it. It is really beautiful. It's beautiful here. And can you see, I'm not a tall guy, so I don't have my Adler elevated shoes, so just hi there. Okay. And the microphone, okay, I'll make sure everyone hears me. And Rabbi Poston said I should begin with my jacket on, so I began with my jacket on. Now I can stay on.
Also,
okay.
Israel, if you don't mind asking everyone to turn their cell phones off.
On behalf of Rabbi Poston, I hereby ask everybody to turn your cell phones off. I just turned mine off. And, okay. I want to say that I give everybody a Yasher Koach for coming out tonight. On the way here, we passed Shar Yafo, and it was just empty. I mean, nobody's out tonight. People are afraid, which is very understandable. And kol hakavod to everybody who came. And Bez Hashem, we should see the day soon when we can walk in the streets of Yerushalaim and all of Eretz Yisrael, and nobody has to be afraid again. And Bez Hashem, for sure, that's not far off, for sure. But right now, it's a little rough. and I hope to speak about that a little at the end of the program. Wait, can you hand me? So, we're right now about to begin the greatest story there is in the world, meaning we're about to start Sefer Bereshis, we're about to begin the Torah all over again. We're about to meet Avram Avinu in 2 weeks, and it's a time we Jews tell stories, and our whole existence is a story, and the story is not over. The final chapters are very much in the process of being written right now. So we're going to tell you, as Rabbi Kosin said, we'll as Hashem, tell you our story, how the unbelievable, unlikely story of how we got here. Yes, sir.
Would you be kind enough to translate the Hebrew?
Absolutely, thank you. And if there's anything particular you don't understand, please stop me. Yeah. What did I say already that's incomprehensible? Okay, whatever. Thank you, absolutely. So, I have the privilege, I have the privilege of having written 4 books. Actually, the 4th one just came out in the last few weeks. The first one was published about 15 years ago, and it's called From Central Park to Sinai, How I Found My Jewish Soul. And there is, I want to tell you, there's a city called New York. It's a town in the United States of America, on the East Coast. If you actually go to Tel Aviv and you start swimming, you will eventually, you'll get there, eventually. It's a long, long swim. But that's where I was born, in New York City. In the middle of Manhattan, there's something called Central Park. And we always lived right next to Central Park. When I was a kid, we lived on 5th Avenue. So 5th Avenue is on the east side of Central Park. And 5th Avenue is known as an affluent street. So there's a reason I'm saying that. And I'll tell you, we were affluent. That's why we lived there. And my father was an amazing person. When we set up the mic and everything right now, Rabbi Poston very correctly pointed out, he can't stand still, or he didn't seem to have to say it like that, but it's true. So my father, there's a word in Yiddish called Sitzfleisch. That means like, you could sit down, right? My father did not have Sitzfleisch. He couldn't sit down. He couldn't stand still. He couldn't, my father, as you'll hear, was a brilliant person, but he was not, when he was at DeWitt Clinton High School in Manhattan, so he was interested in tennis. He actually became the tennis champion of New York City in 1921. And then he went to NYU for 1 year or less, and he dropped out because he had no Sitzfleisch. And he decided it was 1924, between the years between the First World War and the Second World War, and my father went to Paris, the cultural capital of the whole world in those years between the wars, and he wanted to become an artist. My father wanted to become an artist. And, I forgot to tell you something about my father. He died about 4.5 years ago. He was 107 and a half when he died. 107, and it was all there. It was all there. He was amazing. But there's an even more amazing statistic about my father, and that is that he put on tefillin for the first time in his life a week before his 105th birthday. So I'm telling you, I'm sure that if anyone wants to do research, you can let me know, whatever. But if there's a Guinness Book of Jewish World Records, I imagine he's in there for this. Because we're about to meet Avram Avinu, Abraham, our father. I don't think that since the days of Abraham, any Jew can beat this. Any Jew, nobody else puts on tefillin. So, amazing. 105 put on tefillin for the first time. That's a story, which, by the way, I'm happy to amplify anything. After the program, we have to stick to I have a very hard time, as my wife will tell you, sticking to my time limits. But if you have any questions, we're here, we'll stay, we'll tell you all the stories you want to hear if you're interested later. Anyway, my father went to Paris and he wanted to become an artist. Oh, so he found out something amazing in Paris. He found out what? He ain't going to be an artist. He doesn't have talent to be an artist, right? That's it, finished. End of story, right? Forget the dream. No, not my father. That was not my father. Don't forget the dream. Never forget the dream. So what are you going to do? Okay, become a mediocre artist? No, that was also not my father. No. So what can I do? He figured, I think I have talent. I think I would be good in business. Why does he want to go into business? Listen to this. Amazing. He wants to find artists who are great, undiscovered artists, buy their paintings, and that's how he's going to fulfill his dream. Fulfill his dream. Amazing. And by the way, his mother was named Bertha Rothschild, and we did some research, so he's a descendant of the famous, not just famous, that's an understatement, super famous banking family, and my father turned out to be literally a genius in business. A genius. So in 1929, he returned to New York, and he went into Wall Street. Spring of 1929, right? Talking about timing, right? Great timing, right? Pick the worst moment in history to go into Wall Street. That was it. Spring 1929. 6 months later, the market crashed, the Depression began, and people whose whole life was tied up with their portfolio jumped out of windows. They killed themselves. But my father was a genius. And he practically invented the art of hedging, short selling. He smelled it. He knew it was coming. He knew the crash was coming. He was a neophyte at Wall Street, but he was prepared for it. And by the way, if it interests anybody, by the way, I will tell you that short selling, the idea is if the stock goes down, you win, which is the opposite of the usual way. Very dangerous, because the potential losses are infinite. There are infinite potential losses. So you have to know what you're doing. He shorted Radio Corporation of America, which was the big stock, was like, I guess, Apple in 1929, and it was selling at 300, it went down to 3. It went down to 3. My father was incredible. Right away he became a success in Wall Street, and right away he started fulfilling his dream. And he discovered artists who became legendary, and he supported them, and many famous names he discovered, and he created what's considered the greatest collection of contemporary American art, which is now in the Neuberger Museum in State University of New York at Purchase College in Westchester. And I want to tell you, I'm not just saying this because I'm his son. It was considered the greatest collection, but I want to tell you that in 2004, we accompanied my father to the White House, and President Bush presented him with the National Medal of the Arts because of his great collection of American art. And I will tell you parenthetically, it has to be parenthetical to be, if you want more information later, absolutely, but there were 1,200 people at this reception, and nobody spoke to President Bush except me. I told Hashem, I told God, listen, I have to talk to the president about Israel. And I did. We had an unbelievable talk. I actually gave him this book. You can't really give it to him. The Secret Service grabs it, but he got it eventually. And we had an amazing talk. We had a beautiful talk about Israel. But that's for later if anyone's interested. Anyway, so my father was and he started a firm which today is still in existence. This is 80 years later. and it is a famous firm in Wall Street. Tell the name. I get nothing from this. I'm not connected with it from Neuberger Berman. And so my father became famous in Wall Street. He became famous in the world of art. And he was also famous for something else. He was famous for, I guess the word you could say in Hebrew, yashrut. He was straight. Integrity. His word was his word. Everybody knew that he could be trusted 100%, and that in addition to his genius, that is one of the secrets of why people trusted him with their assets, their savings, their accounts, and it became a big firm. Thousands of people today, and many partners. So he was famous for these three things, and he passed these ideals to his children. My mother, may she rest in peace, was a totally different kind of person. My father was very outgoing, very intuitive. My mother was very intellectual, very spiritual, but in her way, just as amazing as my father. Just as amazing as my father. A very active person in New York cultural life, and amazing parents with 3 children. I have an older sister, younger brother, and they say the middle child is sometimes this old whatever. What?
You're not Michigan. You're just intense.
I mean, is that beautiful? Yeah. It's so good for somebody, especially me, to have someone who tells you you're not Meshuggah. I need it. Believe me. Thank you. I need it. I really do. Thank you. And so I'm not Meshuggah. I hope I'm not Meshuggah. So we lived on Fifth Avenue, and we had a wonderful family, and we a committed family. A family believed in education, morality, community, philanthropy. What is this lady? Okay. Anyway, and we had everything. And we lived on Fifth Avenue, and no money worries, and we had everything. Well, almost everything. There was one little thing that was missing. What little thing? Nothing, no big thing. It's called Torah, Yiddishkeit, Jewishness. Zero. Zero, that's like, it's a thing below 1, 0. So, what does 0 mean? Of course, every Jewish boy has a bris, has a circumcision, has a bar mitzvah. Goes without saying, right? No bris, no bar mitzvah, no Rosh Hashanah, no Yom Kippur, no Pesach, not even Hanukkah. Nothing. No bagels.
No way.
No bagels! None! Really? Yes! Actually, it's amazing. You could think, okay, I really didn't celebrate, December 25th. But just yesterday, my colleague is working, he has some old family movies from us, and he put them, I could see them there's a link to them, and we watched them today. For the first time in like 50 years, there were pictures from December 25th. We were watching today, our daughter, like mind-boggling. The tree was there, the stockings, everything. Yeah, December 25th. It was the biggest day of the year, December 25th. But, why not? Who needs to be Jewish? You're living on Fifth Avenue. You have this wonderful family. You have values. You have... Why not be Jewish? Why be Jewish? What do you need it for? So there's a very well-known Gemara which says, what happens to a child, a baby, a fetus inside the mother, in the womb? That a malach comes, an angel comes, and those 9 months in the womb are, the angel is like 24/7, right? Teaching Torah. The whole Torah, 24/7, no coffee breaks, no excuses, that's it. You learn the whole, in the womb, you learn the whole Torah. When we're born, the angel hits us right here. That's why they say we have this ridge between our nose and our upper lip. And with that shock, birth is a shock, right? So we don't know the half of it. So with that shock, Alexi, Shalom Aleichem. Oh, this guy's got a story. Oh, okay, Baruch haba. Wow. Okay, we'll postpone the hug. Okay, anyway. Yeah. Yes! So that, right? And we forget everything the angel taught us when we're born. So what's the use? What's going on over here? 9 months, learning the whole Torah, gone in 1 second. What was it all about? What's it for? We go out into life, we start amassing all this information, our heads are crammed with all kinds of facts, math, science, history, literature. What happens if we are fortunate enough to meet Rabbi Poston, to learn words of Torah, words that have been handed down through thousands of years from Mount Sinai? Wait a minute. I heard this before. It's different from all that information. I heard these. Where did I hear this before? That's when we remember what the angel taught us in the womb. I heard these words before. So I'm this kid, and I'm growing up at Fifth Avenue, and I have everything, and something is so wrong, I can't deal with it. I can't breathe. I literally, my stomach used to hurt me. I felt like a prisoner. Everything, right? Everything was perfect, right? Ostensibly, everything perfect. And everything was wrong. Nothing was right. And I couldn't understand. I'm talking about not when I was 15, 20 years old, a teenager, whatever. 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. A little kid. You can't articulate it, but something is so wrong. Like, what's wrong? What's wrong? I had to find out. I felt like, and I was scared. So like, what? What are you scared of? What is it to be scared of? You're living in this wonderful environment, quite protected, wonderful family. What are you scared of? I was scared of myself. I was scared of myself. I felt like there's something inside me that's not letting me do what I want to do, and that is even scarier, that could make me do things I don't want to do. Like, how do you deal with it? How do you deal with it? You know, when we learn Torah, we learn there's a concept called Yetzer Hara, which prevents a person, the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination, prevents a person from following the Torah. So we have to fight it, you know? That's the concept of the Yetzer Hara. It's not a concept. I'm this little kid. I never heard the word Yetzer Hara. I never heard the word Torah in my life. I saw the Yetzer Hara in front of me. I couldn't control. My whole life was outside my ability to control. So what do you do? What do you do? I had no idea. Forget answers. I didn't know what the questions were. So I asked my mother, and she could understand it because she was this very spiritual person. But she didn't know what to do either. So I'm going to just give you, the book really details, to a much greater extent than we have time for now, unless we'll stay till 2 a.m. or 3 a.m., all the different stops all along the way. But I had to find a way to live. What do you do? How do you live? I'm going to give you a sampling. First of all, Sunday school. We went to, in America they have Sunday school, right? So they 2 hours a week. And there's something called religion. Maybe it deals with this. I don't know. Religion, whatever it is. So I went to Sunday school, and what do we learn? So it was a very liberal Sunday school. And 1 week we learned about Catholicism, 1 week Protestantism, Zoroastrianism, Buddhism, Hinduism, Islam. 1 week Judaism, whatever that is, and Roman mythology, Greek. Did it help? No, it didn't help. Thank you. I made a bracha already, okay? Unbelievable water. Thank you. L'chaim. Didn't help. It's just a theory. I don't want theories. I have to live. I need something real. No theories. No good. What else? So I thought, great literature. Now, the greatest writers of all time, Shakespeare, Chaucer, Homer, Milton, these were brilliant, world-class figures. Fine. So you want truth? You want reality? Okay, they have the secret. Shakespeare, beautiful. Hamlet. You know Hamlet, inside, outside, backwards, upside down, every word, every letter of Hamlet. Brilliant. Can you live on Hamlet? This Jewish kid, can you live on Hamlet? No, you can't live on, no, didn't work. Doesn't work. Oh, what else? I thought maybe nature. You see the corruption all around. The world is so polluted in every sense. You go in the woods, in a forest, a tree, it's beautiful. A mountain, I love it. Oh my gosh. Peace. So I used to hike. I hiked a lot. And after my senior year in high school, my friend and I spent the summer in the Teton Wilderness area in Wyoming. You been there? I think you all been there. Anyway, and I want to tell you, this was wilderness. 7 weeks, we saw more moose than people. And that's a fact. Beautiful, right? Perfect. What else do you need, right? No good. What's wrong? What is the problem? The problem is you are nowhere. Your head is, you have these things that you can't figure out. What's bothering you? What's wrong with you? And you have no distractions. You're in the wilderness and you're thinking. And the more you think, the more frustrated you get until your head's about to explode. And I had this nightmare. What happens if Congress, in its wisdom, revokes the wilderness status of the Teton Wilderness area? And 10,000 bulldozers are coming and knocking down all my beautiful trees. And it's all over. It's finished. They're building high-rise. Go on. No good. Wilderness didn't work. What else? So in high school, when I was in high school, I imagine some people in this room will remember these days. So when I was in high school, it was the time of the beginning of the Civil Rights Movement, Dr. Martin Luther King. And I just want to say specifically here, I'm not making a social statement here, but we thought we're going to fix the world. And we're going to, right the wrongs, and we're going to end discrimination against black people. So we used to picket. Remember the days of picketing Woolworths? Maybe some people do in this room. I do. Anyway, and fine. Right and wrong, that's what I'm talking about. But this Jewish kid, and it's not, it doesn't work. It doesn't fill up the vacuum. No, it's not enough. It's not there. It wasn't. In college, Vietnam War, peace movement, we're going to bring peace to the world. Again, right, wrong, I'm not making a political statement. I'm just saying this Jewish kid, and it doesn't fill up the vacuum. So what am I going to do? So I want to tell you that I'm in high school. I'm a very shy kid because I'm not normal. I am not normal. I have these worries and thoughts which normal people don't have. They live on Fifth Avenue and they have all the things I had. I should be 100% happy. I'm not, so I must be a little not normal. And so I was afraid to speak to girls. If she was, ugly and unpopular and everything, okay, I can speak to her, no big deal. But if she was beautiful and popular and successful, she'll never speak to me. The Leah Neuberger. So what happened is, Linda Valenci, I don't know why my wife is making this face at me. Linda Valenci came to the Fieldston School. That's where we went to school, a very ritzy, sophisticated school filled with Jews who are running away from being Jewish, like me, in a very fancy neighborhood of New York. And Linda Valenci came to the Fieldston School, and everything stopped. The teacher stopped teaching, the students stopped, listening, and all the, guys just like, how can I go out with Linda Valenci? That was the main topic of conversation of the entire school, every day, all day long. So, and of course, I, the Leah Neuberger, will never, ever, speak to Linda Valenci. It's impossible. Impossible. So I just want to tell you that in about 9 months from now, there's a portion of the Torah, Parshas Balak, tells about Bilam, the non-Jewish prophet, and Bilam had a donkey. Bilam's donkey was very interesting, in many ways smarter than Bilam, because Bilam's donkey could speak. If Bilam had listened to his donkey, he would have been a lot better off, but he didn't. He got into trouble. But this is what we call a nace, a miracle. When a donkey speaks, a miracle is when God creates something which does not operate according to the normal laws of nature, and there's always a reason for it. So I want to tell you, I was at a track meet at the Fieldston School, and I'm sitting there watching the track meet, and all of a sudden, I look around, and I'm sitting next to Linda Valenci. I start to shake. I turn to ice. What am I going to do? What do I? All of a sudden, a miracle happened, and the donkey's mouth opened. I spoke. The Nebuch, spoke to Linda Valenci. I couldn't believe it. What? And it was normal words, like human, like people talking to each other. And we had a conversation. And so, what do you do? So, okay, I asked her. She'd go out with me, whatever. And she did. And nobody could believe it. And we went out all through high school. And then I went on to the University of Michigan. For some crazy reason, Linda Valenci followed me to Michigan. And we got married. Can you imagine? I was my second year of Michigan. After her first, my second year, we got married. And she's sitting right here today. It's like unbelievable. It's unbelievable. It really is unbelievable. It's not a miracle. It is millions and millions, the infinite number of miracles piled on each other. And they lived happily ever after. Thank you very much. Oh, wait. Life is not so simple. Life isn't so simple. Why? No, you said 35 minutes. I'm at 30 minutes right now. I have 5 more minutes. I only have 3 hours more material, but this happens every time we speak. You should know, every time. I don't know how I'm going to, whatever. I get severely punished after every, okay, you don't have to hear my troubles. Anyway, you made me lose my train of thought. Now I get another extra minute for that. Okay.
We got married with Kathleen.
We got married, thank you. Okay, so the rabbis say a beautiful thing. Ish, the word ish, a man, in Hebrew has the letter yud, and isha, a woman, has hey, yud and hey. Yud and hey together stand for Hashem, for God. Meaning, the rabbis learn from this, man, a woman, and marriage is a challenging relationship, the most challenging relationship, especially if you're married to me. And so you need help. Man, woman, and God. You want to try to make an ideal home with kedusha, with sanctity. So bring Hashem, bring God into the home, and He'll help you. Take the yud out of ish and the hey out of isha, you get ish, fire. What does it mean? So we experienced that. We were married a few years. A fight, an argument, and a little fire begins. And you don't have God in the house, and the fire gets out of control. You have no equipment to put the fire out. You don't have God there to help you. And this is what happened with us. About after a few years, I was in graduate school in Michigan, and it was getting worse. And the whole marriage was burning up on fire. I didn't know what to do. I tried everything. What can I do? What can I do? Came to a point, I remember in the exact minute, literally, 2 a.m., Monday, January 10th, 1966, Ann Arbor, Michigan. Woke up in the middle of the night. I'm crying. It's all over. It's all over. I tried everything. There's nothing I didn't try. Imagine my life was like this long corridor, hundreds of rooms. Off the corridor, I opened every door to every room, and every door led nowhere. I tried everything. There's nothing. It's all over. I'm crying. And then I get this crazy idea. Wait a minute. Could there be a God? What God? Are you kidding? Like me? You know, if you lived in the Dark Ages, you know, and you knew nothing, you couldn't read, you couldn't write. Okay, so they were filled with dark world filled with superstition. Okay, so they believe in God. But me, I'm a sophisticated, brilliant student in 20th century America. God, where's God? I don't see God. Wait a minute. Your life is falling apart. You need God. God, wait, maybe you're there. Do you exist? If you exist, help me. Oh, maybe God is real. Maybe God is real. The first time, what was I, 23 years old? The first time in my whole life, I had hope. Maybe there's hope. Maybe there's something in life I can live by. Okay, I'm willing to believe in God. But, I'm not Jewish. Don't get me wrong. I am not Jewish. And anyway, Jews do not believe in God. I know that. I can prove it. How can I prove it? I will give you my proof. I went to my friend's bar mitzvah, and a guy gets up there, blah, 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 blah. He had no clue what he's saying. Nobody in the room had a clue what he's saying. And then we had this great roast beef, and then we gave him a beautiful check, and the guy had an unbelievable bank account. So Jews believe in roast beef. Jews believe in bank accounts. And where is God? No, not here. Forget it. Jews don't believe in God. Definite. So who's the role model? I've got to find a role model. Oh, Dr. Martin Luther King. Oh, there's a role model. Mahatma Gandhi, there's a role model. So we started getting into Hinduism. We had a professor from India. We studied with him. And then I started getting into Buddhism. And I got these Buddhist dream books. And I used to wake myself up in the middle of the night every night. Seriously, I would try to remember my dream, which is very difficult. It's very difficult to remember all the details of your dream. It just floats through. There's something that's amazing in Rosh Hashanah davening. It talks about evil disappearing like a dream, disappearing into thin air. And it's true. Very hard to remember your dream. So I thought if I could remember every detail of my dream, so I'm going to find, perfection, mental clarity. Excellent, wonderful. 3 years, I wake myself up every night in the middle of the night. And as they say in Yiddish, garnished and garnished. 3 years, nothing happened. Like, I realized 3 years later, what's going on over here? Nothing's happening. And what's the goal? Sit on the mountaintop and try to achieve this mental perfection. And you know what? I don't want to sit on the mountaintop. I'm a person. I'm married. I eat, I sleep, I walk, I talk. Forget mountaintops. I don't want to sit. What am I going to do? So by this time, we were living in England, Oxford, England. I was studying English language and literature at Balliol College, Oxford University. My wife was studying art, the Ashmolean Museum. And we used to travel around the continent. Rome, Paris, London, the Vatican, cathedrals, frescoes, statues. You idiot! It's so obvious. Christianity, that's it. right in front of you, right? So I started getting into Saint this, Saint that, early church fathers, and I wrote a book. Which, you know, and I will say, I mean, I am a very modest person. So, I mean, I have to say, it's, you know, in all modesty, it was, you know, definitely one of the most brilliant books in the history of the world. I'm just telling you the truth, that's all. It's just, you know, but I have to tell the truth. The title of the book was Why the Jews Are Wrong and the Christians Are Right. I don't know why people like it. I mean, it's a serious book. There was a wide slight problem with this book. Nobody wanted to publish it. Like, you know, God, what are you doing to me? You know, like the most brilliant book in history, and nobody wants to publish it. Now I look back, I say, Baruch Hashem, thank God, nobody published this garbage. Not one. I mean, I have one copy of it. The whole story why I still have a copy of it. Rebbitzin Youngreis told me, you just keep one copy, because someday you're going to say you never wrote it. But you did. So I have it. Anyway, not one word makes sense in the whole book, I guarantee you. If you're ever in Lawrence, New York, you're welcome to look. I'll show it to you, and you will not be interested in it. Anyway, so what are we going to do? We have to find something to do with our lives. We came back to America. We settled in a small town north of New York City on the Hudson River, Cornwall on Hudson. And in this town, there was a weekly newspaper, an old weekly newspaper, historic paper, so to speak, and it was for sale. My parents helped me. We bought it. I became the publisher of the newspaper, and I became the publisher. So I wanted to make it a great newspaper. So there's an organization in the U.S. called the National Newspaper Association, all weekly newspapers, and there was a guy who was the head of it at that time, a brilliant Jewish guy named Walter Grunfeld. He had 3 newspapers in Binghamton, New York. We became his friend, and I called him one day, Walter, we want to come, and we want to learn from you. You know how to make a great newspaper. So fine. We drove up to Binghamton, spent the day with Walter. At the end of the day, time to go home, and we stopped at his house for coffee before we left, and Walter wanted to watch the news. And he turned on the TV, 6:30 at night. And he's standing in front of the TV. And he's crying, like, what's going on? What's going on? It was October 1973, Yom Kippur War. And Walter was saying, I can't believe it, a week ago it was all over, Israel was finished, and look at this. General Sharon just crossed the Suez Canal, he's got the Egyptian army surrounded, they're marching on Damascus, Israel's saved, and he was crying, with simcha, with happiness. And I'm like, yeah, right, I know what you're talking about, right, I saw in the paper, they have a war somewhere in the Middle East. Right, yeah, I know about that. And Walter Grunfeld started screaming at me. What kind of a Jew are you? What are you, made of stone? Don't you have a heart? What kind of a Jew are you? What kind of a Jew are you? I don't know. Nobody ever asked me that before. What kind of a Jew are you? Okay, so now, you're going to get the inside story. What kind of Jew is he? I would like to present the former Linda Valenci, who has endured many years of marriage with me, and now she'll tell you the truth. Leave it, forget it, use this light. Okay.
I also grew up, you should have Alexis speak next time. He's an amazing story. From Russia. I also grew up not knowing anything about my Jewishness, not quite as far away as my husband. His family were actually...
I never grew up. You
It's my turn. Shh. He grew up in a family that observed ethical culture. It's a so-called religion, actually classified as a religion in New York State, in the United States. And it was founded by a German Jew who was the son of a Reform rabbi. For him, Reform was too far to the right for him. and he took ethical teachings from the Torah, subtracted God, subtracted mitzvahs, and said ethics, that's it, that's the religion, ethics. So my husband's family was into that, and actually the school where we met, the high school, was an ethical culture school, a very exclusive private prep school, which had excellent secular education. Every week we had an ethics class to discuss ethical issues, and the way we were raised and the way the classes went, we would discuss the issues, and if I thought something was right, you thought it was wrong for you, it was right for me. And growing up, I wasn't involved in ethical culture till I went to the school just because it was a good education in the secular world, but my family wasn't involved in it. My mother's father made a Seder every year, and I had a certain exposure to some things in Judaism, but the Reform Sunday school I went to, I didn't like. It had nothing to do with my life. We didn't observe anything. We didn't keep kosher, we didn't keep Hanukkah, we didn't keep anything at all. We didn't keep December 25th either, but we were just Americans. So I also felt something was missing as I was growing up. As you heard, my husband was very miserable with it. He was something so missing, so wrong, and he was suffering terribly. I just had this empty feeling inside. I wanted to be a good person, but I didn't know what's good. I wanted to live for more than just myself, because I realized if you live just for material things, you get this thing and you get that thing, and then you want the next thing. You're never satisfied. And I wanted to make the world better. I wanted to have a bigger meaning and purpose in life. So when we met in high school, in 9th and 10th grades, I had just turned 15, and my husband was 16. Together we searched. My husband made me more intensely aware of something so missing and wrong, and we searched together in all the areas that you heard about from my husband. So finally, this man is screaming at my husband, "What kind of Jew are you?" We had never been interested in our Judaism. We had gone to our friends, some of our friends performed bar mitzvahs. It was just a party. Money, presents, a party, goodbye. They never went back to synagogue. So we figured Judaism is materialism. We want a real meaning and purpose, is something spiritual. And so we just decided that everything else must have something spiritual. But thank God, our Yerushalaim, our Jewish souls, told us these other religions were not for us. They were not right for us. They didn't satisfy our Jewish souls. We wanted to be normal people, married, raising a family, part of a community, but to have a spiritual dimension to our lives, a higher meaning and purpose, something real to live for above ourselves. And in all these other religions that we studied, in order to fulfill the highest, you had to be an ascetic, remove yourself from society. We knew that wasn't right. So this man is screaming, "What kind of Jew are you?" We decided we better look into our own. We had 2 daughters at that point, 5 and 3 years old. Our 5-year-old had mostly non-Jewish friends asking her, telling her about their religion. She was asking us about God. We didn't know what to tell her. We lived 60 miles north of New York City at that point, in Cornwall, New York, and there was no synagogue in our town. But the nearest synagogue in Newburgh, New York, was 5 miles away. We asked a friend who was an advertiser in our newspaper to take us there. So he said, "Next week there's this lady evangelist coming." She's not an evangelist, actually. Rebbetzin Esther Young Rice was speaking. She's not trying to convert anybody who's not Jewish. She goes around the world to teach Jewish people what it means to be a Jew, to learn more, to do more. And so we walked into the synagogue and heard words that we had never heard before. She told us that all our souls were at Mount Sinai when God gave us the Torah. We're descended from kings, prophets, matriarchs, and patriarchs. We taught the world there's a God. We gave morality to the world. We have our Torah to study and live by day and night. We were so moved. We were both crying. Now what do? We wrote a letter to Rebbetzin Young Rice. What should we do? She said, "Come to my Torah classes." She taught the Torah portion of the week every week in Brooklyn, New York, at Sharet Zion Synagogue on Ocean Parkway. "Come to my classes." It was a 2-hour drive each way to go to the classes during the energy crisis when it was hard to get gas. The worst day of the week, Tuesday night, my husband had to get the newspaper put together to take to the printer Wednesday morning. And it was a very long job. He was everything. He was the editor, publisher, reporter. And actually, in those days, he didn't use a computer. This was in 1974. He had to use hot wax and paste the paper together. It was a huge job, but we looked at each other and said, you know what? We have to go to these classes. It's life or death. We have to find out who we are and how we should live. We're going to those classes. So he got up at 2 o'clock in the morning to get the newspaper put together. We drove the 2 hours each way to get to the class. And in the classes, finally, we were finding out how to have a good marriage, how to understand what's going on in the world, how to raise our children. We went every week to the class, and then Rebbetzin Youngreis announced a trip to Israel. We had never been interested before in going to Israel. After all, we thought that the Jews stole it from the Arabs. We don't want to go there. We have nothing to do. Then we're learning, Bereshis bara Elokim, Hashem made the heavens and earth. That's right, Bereshis, God made the heavens and earth. Rashi points out, how come the Torah, a book of laws, starts with the creation of the world? And he predicted 1,000 years ago, Rashi predicted, he said, someday the nations of the world are going to accuse us of having stolen the land. What should we do? We should hold up this book. All the nations believe in this book. God created the heavens and the earth. He could give it to whomever he wished, and he gave the land of Israel to the Jewish people, to Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, and to their descendants, that's to us. We were so excited to be able to come to Israel. We arranged it. It was very difficult to get this small staff to take over the paper, my mother to take care of our 2 children. Our daughter is 5 and 3 years old. And we got on the El Al flight in the spring of 1974. And a midnight flight, we fell asleep. All of a sudden, in the middle of the night, we hear noises. What's going on? The men are getting up, and they're putting boxes on their heads. We had never seen or heard of talis and tefillin till that El Al flight to Israel. We got to Israel, and Rebbetzin Youngreis took me to the mikveh in Yerushalaim for the first time in my life after being married 11 years and having 2 children. The mikveh ladies were so excited and so happy, they were crying. We had the first Shabbos of our lives at Kibbutz Lavi. Many of you probably have been there. Very, very beautiful kibbutz in the Galil. All you see are beautiful views, beautiful flowers. All you hear are birds singing. All those years we had worked in the peace movement. We had never had a moment's peace till we had Shabbos. 2 weeks of living a Jewish life. We didn't know Aleph Beis. Literally, if you had shown me an Aleph and a Beis, I couldn't have told you which is which. We knew nothing. We were like newborn babies. Here we were honor students in the finest universities, and as far as our Jewishness, we weren't even in nursery school. We knew nothing. So we repeated the brachas after people. We had a Shabbos, a second Shabbos of our lives in Yerushalaim. We went back after 2 weeks in Israel to Cornwall on the Hudson, New York, and we looked at each other. We are out of here. We have to move to North Woodmere, Long Island, where Rebbetzin Youngreis lives, so we can learn and our children can learn how to live a Jewish life. My husband got a job as an editor at the Long Island Press. We sold our newspaper and printing business. We bought a house a block from Rabbi Youngreis' shul and sold our house. And in September 1974, we moved into North Woodmere 2 weeks before Rosh Hashanah. It was a real new year for us. We said, okay, as soon as we move in, we're going to do everything we know about. We're going to keep kosher and the laws of family purity, and I'm going to dress modestly, and we're going to keep Shabbos, and I'm going to cover my hair. And we jumped in. It sounds very sudden, but it really was not sudden for us, because here we had been married 11 years, and for 4.5 years before marriage, we had been searching and searching for 15 years who we are, how we should live, what's the real truth in the world. We found it. We felt as if our souls were starving, as the prophet Amos had predicted. There's going to be a hunger and a thirst in the land, a hunger not for food, a thirst not for water, but a hunger and a thirst for the word of God. That's how we felt. Our souls are starving. This is it. This is the real thing. This is our food for our souls. This is it. We're jumping in. So we start unpacking, the boxes are all around us, and the phone rings. Rebbetzin Young Rice, you're sending us 3 guests for Shabbos? Well, we had only a few Shabbases before, and we don't know our face, and we don't know. Listen, don't worry. You know very little, but these people know even less than you. And they're going to feel so comfortable with you. And if you have any questions, come on down the street, ask the rabbi what to do. So we had the guests, a husband and wife and son. The husband had been in the U.S. Army 20 years before that in Alaska. The missionaries had gotten to him and converted him to Christianity. He actually became a minister, active trying to convert other Jews. He came with his wife and son, his non-Jewish wife and son. So that was very interesting, Shabbos. Anyway, it really did go well. And 26 years later, he wrote a letter. This ex-minister wrote a letter. I want you to know I am finally completely observant of Torah and mitzvahs. It took 26 years. Sometimes a person is inspired, takes a step, and it takes many years. Sometimes it's quickly, sometimes it's short, but step by step, you plant a seed, reach out to somebody, plant a seed, it comes to fruition. So it took 26 years. Then Rebbetzin Yagrai said to us, someone reached out to you, reach out to other people, you should have guests regularly, and sharing the Torah, sharing Shabbos. It's like, she compared it to, let's say you have the most delicious dinner and you sit down all by yourself, it tastes good. But if you share it with someone else, it tastes so much more delicious. And that's how Shabbos, that's how Torah is. So over the last, how many years is it? 41 years? We've had guests in our home, whenever we're home, almost every Shabbos, many guests, and also people moved in to live with us as well, learn to live a Jewish life. Rebbetzin Yagrai asked us sometimes to have this person or that person stay with us because their home environment was hostile to Torah, and they wanted to learn to live a Jewish life. And in the warmth of a family, a person could get a good start and be able to learn and to do more. So we had many different people staying with us. In the book From Central Park to Sinai, there are many stories of these people. I'll give you one as an example. There was a young girl named Rachel. She was in her early 20s, and she was going with a crowd, a non-Jewish crowd of people that was not a good influence on her. Her boss, who was an observant Jew, was worried about her, and he said to her, why don't you go to Rebbetzin Yagrai's classes, to a Naini class? You'll meet some nice Jewish people. She came to the class and she loved it. She came for Shabbos and she loved it. So she moved in with us for about 3 months, and then she went on with her life, and we didn't hear from her for a very long time. 18 years later, we got a letter. Dear Yisrael and Leah, do you remember me? I was a very confused young girl when I lived with you. I still have the Siddur, the prayer book that you gave me. I daven from it every day. I live in Israel. I married a man named Abraham. We have 2 sons and 2 daughters. Our son's bar mitzvah is coming up in a few months. Please, please come to the bar mitzvah. Please thank Rebbetzin Yagrai for everything she did. I thank you so much for everything. Please come. We were so happy to hear from her and that she was doing so well. But how can we just pick ourselves up with all our responsibilities in New York and go to bar mitzvah in Yerushalaim? But it turned out, remember our daughter, our oldest daughter, who was, her friends were telling her about Christianity. She was asking us questions about God. Actually, if we had stayed living in Cornwall on the Hudson, we probably would have sent her. We were seriously considering sending her to the best school in the area where many Jews go, the Bishop Dunn Catholic School. Jews have to go to the best school, right? And instead, thank God, Lahavdil, she went to Torah Academy for Girls in Far Rockaway. She married a boy from Jerusalem, and she had a baby boy about the same time as Rachel's son's bar mitzvah. So we were able to come to Yerushalaim for the bris of our grandson and for the bar mitzvah of Rachel's son. It was a beautiful simcha, really a wholehearted, beautiful Torah family. Now Rachel is a grandmother many times over. All her children are married, and they're generations and generations. We keep in touch, and we come to each other's simchas. So when we first moved in, as I said, we were like newborn babies. So what do? my husband had had a medical circumcision as a baby, but never a bris. So Rabbi Youngreis arranged to have a moil to give a bris for my husband. And the rabbi saw my husband was very nervous. Even in the case where a doctor has done a circumcision, there's still, with a moil, there's blood spilled, and my husband was really nervous. So the rabbi said, "Here, Yisrael, read this. I'm sure my husband is the only person in Jewish history to have had a bris while he was reading the daily news." Then we had to have a chuppah. Our original wedding was with a very reformed rabbi. That was the compromise, because my mother's father was a traditional Jew, and my husband's family were ethical culturists, so the compromise was a reformed rabbi. So the rabbi did not have a kesuba, a marriage contract, which is according to Jewish law you must have. He just had a piece of paper that said, "I am my beloved's, my beloved is mine," a space for 2 witnesses to sign. He didn't bother having witnesses sign. So we had a chuppah after being married 11 years with 2 children, and we decided not to invite our daughters to the wedding because we were afraid they would go to school the next day and say, "My mommy and daddy got married last night." A whole new life, a bris, a chuppah. We started to learn Aleph Beis with Rabbi Youngreis. In a 10-week course, once a week, to learn to read and write Hebrew, and then to practice. And we didn't even have Jewish names, actually. My husband, Roy, became Yisroel, Linda became Leah, our oldest daughter, Susan, became Sarah, Juliet became Yafa. She married Rebbe Tinyan Rice's son. And then we had Miriam Basia, Aaron Yaakov, Nechama Bracha, Baruch Hashem. We had such a beautiful life to give our children. And in the old life, the secular life, how many children do you want already? 2, 3 at the most. It's such a crazy world, you don't know how to raise your children. But thank God we had a beautiful Torah life, and God gave us more children. So they all had yeshiva education, and we learned from them. We keep learning from them, thank God. And they reach out and have Shabbos guests also with their families. So it's never too late for anybody to make an important change in life. As I said, we were married 11 years with 2 children. We were 30 and 31 years old. We totally changed our lives. As my husband said, my husband's father put on tefillin for the first time in his life at the age of 105. Why did he do that? He had always said, "Religion is the cause of all the problems in the world. I don't believe in any religion." And then he read my husband's book, 2020 Vision. It's a novel based on Torah thoughts, based on Yecheskel and Navi, Ezekiel the prophet, the Malbim's commentary on Ezekiel the prophet. And it takes place in the year 2020. There's a terror attack on the U.S. and in Europe, much bigger than 9/11. A group of Jews is trying to survive in America and find their way to Israel. It's full of Torah thoughts. It's full of chizuk. It gives you strength and hope and faith. So it's a very exciting book. So my father-in-law read it at the age of 105. We didn't even think he'd read it. We figured, whatever, I get to give him a book. But he read it 4 times, and he loved it so much. He was so inspired that we grabbed the opportunity, and he put on tefillin for the first time in his life, and he was so happy. So I'll tell you a little bit about my husband's books. He's the author of everything, all the 4 books, and he also has a column regularly every week in the American Yated newspaper, and regularly about every 6 weeks in the Jewish press. He sends his articles as emails. So in case anyone would like to get his articles, they're very interesting, original insights. He's the author of everything. I'm the editor of everything. We work together. So if you want to sign up for this. So we have all the books tonight for sale. We sell them at discounted prices at our cost, or even below our cost. From Central Park to Sinai, How I Found My Jewish Soul is our personal story. Stories about Rebbe Tzimyan Bress and her family. Stories about people, as I said, who came to us for Shabbos or who lived with us. It's very heart to heart and can't put it down. Don't start reading it too late at night. People say to my husband, I stayed up till 3 in the morning, I couldn't put your book down. Blame him that they didn't get enough sleep. Okay, then the second book, World Storm, Finding Meaning and Direction Amidst Today's World Crisis. Looking into the Torah to understand today's world and to give hope for the future. It's a spiritual history of the world from Bereshit to Mashiach, and it has letters of approval from many great rabbis. As I told you about 2020 Vision, the third book. The fourth book just came out within the last month or two, called Working Toward Mashiach. It is selected articles from my husband's articles in the Yael newspaper, arranged according to the Torah portion of the week and according to the holiday. And my husband would be happy to sign books, and we also take credit cards. And my husband wants to end with a few thoughts about today's world. I thank you so much.
Okay, you heard the true story, the real story. Anyway, would like to say 5 minutes?
As long as you want.
Okay, 5 hours. Okay. Very, very, I don't have to tell anybody, living in very, very challenging times. And I'd just like to read to you something which my wife mentioned before. At the very beginning of the third book, 2020 Vision, I have a quotation from a very famous rabbi who lived maybe 150 years ago, the Malbim, based on Yecheskel Hanavi, Ezekiel the prophet. And this is what he says. This is the backdrop for the action that takes place in 2020 Vision. The Malbim says, in the end of days, after the children of Israel had returned to their land, the children of Ishmael, and the children of Esau will unite to attack Jerusalem. They will form a world coalition against the tiny nation of Israel. I'd just like to stop there for a minute, 3 sentences. In 3 sentences, you have the entire world situation today. That's the world situation today, in 3 sentences. People think that by reading the newspaper or watching TV or whatever, going online, you need to learn about what's going on in the world. The Malbim, based on Yecheskel Hanavi, Ezekiel the prophet, told us 150 years ago what would happen when Am Yisrael, the Jewish people, returned to Israel. That the entire world would unite against us, the Christian world and the Muslim world would form a coalition to attack us and try and drive us out, God forbid, of our land. So what do? We see it's happening today. That's exactly what's happening. Each day it's clearer. What do? What's going to be? How do you deal with it? How does no matter what kind of an army we have, we're the smallest nation, and there are hundreds and hundreds of millions of people who it seems to be their entire life is trying, God forbid, to get rid of us. God forbid. The Malbim continues. But something will go wrong with their plan. The religious beliefs of the children of Ishmael, the Muslim nations, and the children of Esav, the Christian world, the Western world, will clash. And the 2 nations will collide and destroy each other. These are not my words, this is the Malbim. The 2 nations will collide and destroy each other. This is what is referred to as Milchemes Gog and Magog, the war of Gog and Magog. Following this cataclysmic conflict, the final redemption of the Jewish people will occur with the coming of Mashiach ben David, the Messiah, Mashiach ben David. That's what the Malbim says, and that's the backdrop for the action of this book. I just want to mention, I read a few months ago in the TED newspaper in America that I write for, a description from the Chafetz Chaim, was, I think everybody agrees, the greatest rabbi of the century, died in 1933. A description of what we call Chevle Mashiach. Chevle means the birth pangs of Mashiach, which we are in right now. In Hebrew, the word Chevle Mashiach, Chevle means rope. And the Chafetz Chaim said at the time before Mashiach that God, Hashem is going to stretch a rope across the world, and it's going to be flailing very violently. If we can hang on to that rope, we'll get through everything. We'll get through everything. And if you look at Jewish history, this is our secret. The fact is, we don't need anything new. We don't need a new plan. We just need to be good to each other. We need to hang on to the Torah. We need to come to Rabbi Poston, learn more Torah, more Torah, more Torah. To remember we're one family, Am Yisrael. We're all brothers, we're sisters, we're one. And it's so clear from what's going on in the world. Our rabbis tell us the last gullus, the last exile, hundreds of years ago, and more, our prophets told us, the last exile will be Gullus Yishmael, the exile of Yishmael, of the Muslim nations. It's all, everything that is happening today is totally predicted by our rabbis, based on the words of our Nevi'im, the prophets. So it's so clear. We're so close to Mashiach. And all we have to do is what we know how to do already. Learn Torah, live Torah, and become one again, one nation. Feel for each other. Take care of each other. Become one, the way we were at Mount Sinai. That's how we got the Torah. Like one nation with one heart. Just want to end with a bracha, a blessing for everybody. We should get through all our challenges. To hold on to the Torah very tight. Hold on to that chevel, that rope. And be'ezus Hashem, with God's help, we're soon going to see, very soon, going to see a world. It's a totally different world. It's not going to be dominated by the cultures of the Western cultures, the Muslim cultures. Our rabbis tell us, Ki mitzion teitze Torah gar Hashem Yerushalaim. This city, Yerushalaim, is going to become the center of the world. From the Temple Mount, the temple will be rebuilt, just the way it is on the cover of Working Toward Mashiach. And it's going to be a different world. And everybody will know Hashem Echad U'Shmo Echad. Hashem is real. With God's help, we should all see that day. Thank you so much. Hashem should bless us, watch over everybody in Am Yisrael. We should soon see the Yerushalaim of final redemption in our own days. Thank you so much.
We have a questions and answers session. If anybody wants to stick around, please do so. Also, then at the end of the
being here. Anyway, we have another sign-up sheet for this side. If anyone's interested. Thank you so much. Hashem should bless all of us.
Let's take this.
Any questions?
A question. Okay. Leah, Leah, this lady is so. Okay. I'm going to repeat the question so everyone can hear it. So this is a very good question. Was our family supportive of our becoming Torah Jews? And the answer is, at first, they thought we were nuts. I mean, not really nuts, because they knew us already, but nuts, nuts. We went off the deep end. But as they saw over time our life, our children, and how we went so far out of the way to be close to them. In fact, when we became observant, we became closer to our parents because we wanted to. I mean, it's a commandment, right? Keep it honor your father and mother. So when you find that out, you have to become closer to your parents, and we did. And they saw how beautiful our life is, and how our children are so respectful to them. Which is, believe me, I don't have to tell you, you can't. In this world, I mean, I don't have to tell you what you see. Everybody's seen what goes on in this world. And as the years went on, we became closer and closer and closer. I will tell you, my mother, for example, when our oldest daughter, after years in yeshiva, so she graduated my school, and she went to seminary here in Yerushalaim. So Pesach, we came to Israel, the rest of the family. So my mother, who was in her 70s, came with us. She'd never been to Israel before. She was never interested in going to Israel before. She never had a Passover in her life before. She was 74 something. And we stayed, actually, what's that hotel right by Ghana Palmon, whatever it's called today. But anyway, we stayed there. Yeah, whatever. And we toured Israel for a week before. She loved it. And I want to tell you, I really am sure that our becoming observant literally saved her life spiritually. For all the, material things we had, she wasn't happy. And this saved her life. And in the case of my wife's mother, the last, how many years of her life? Last few years of her life, she was a widow already. She's in her 90s. She spent every Shabbos by us, which was like unheard of. And she became a different person. I want you to know, we were with her in the hospital. She died on Shabbos, Friday night. She passed away. We were with her, in her room with her. And it transformed my parents. You heard about my father with a tefillin. And it's amazing. I don't want to go into too much detail or keep you, but it's an amazing story about my parents. They weren't supposed to have a Jewish burial. They were actually supposed to, in their will, they had will to be cremated, right? Anybody who lived in America could understand this. I mean, I don't know if you can understand it, but it's not uncommon. And my grandparents were cremated in America. And they were both born in Europe. And not that they were religious ever that I knew. But when my mother, we became even closer after we became religious. So I asked my mother one day, would she change her will and from cremation, God forbid. And she said yes. And I want to tell you this to my mother. That day she went to the lawyer and she changed her will. That day. And then my father, my mother changed her will. My father changed his will. And they both had Jewish burial. And, okay, I got to tell you the sequel. You got to hear this. I can't help it. You asked the question, so now you got to hear the answer. The first yard site, the first anniversary of my mother's death, right? So I went to, what do? You go to the cemetery, right? I mean, so I went to the cemetery, and as I'm leaving, I'm the only one there, of course, and I'm sorry, I'm monopolizing. I'm not giving my wife a chance. Okay, sorry. Okay, I'm doing okay. My wife said I could. Anyway, I went to the cemetery, and as I'm leaving the cemetery, I said to God, you know, Hashem, I just want to ask you something. You see, I told you, little mud case, whatever. So I said, God, listen, I think, listen, God's not listening. Anyway, God, I think Mother is in Olam Ha'em, it's the world of truth with you. And if she is, you know, I really had something to do with it. So I'm just wondering, God, like, could I get a little report what's going on over there? Okay. No, just, you know, whatever. I didn't say a word to anybody, right? I went home. Didn't say, am I going to tell everybody how I'm sugar? Yeah. So I went home. I didn't say a word. The next morning, our daughter, who's today living in Yerushalaim, she was 18 then, Miriam got up. Abba, I had a dream last night. Grandma came to me in my dream, and she was so happy. The next morning I got an answer.
What about your brother and sister?
What about what?
What happened? Your brother and sister.
Oh.
They don't live a Torah life. I have one brother, an older brother. My husband has an older sister and younger brother. But they respect us. And my brother says, if it makes us happy, it's great. And he also respects us because, as he put it, we don't just talk, but we walk the talk. He respects that, you know, that we're real. And also my husband's brother and sister, as I said, they respect us and they're proud of us for a lot of things, and they enjoy the books. But they have a totally different lifestyle. Our parents really were shocked when we first changed our lives, and they had really hoped in the beginning it was temporary insanity. But then they saw, you know, beautiful family life, and they had a lot of nachas. They had so much happiness from our children and grandchildren. So they came around.
I want to say really, we're really very close to our siblings. Very close. They respect us a lot. We went out of our way to have good relations with them, to have peace. And, you know, our lawyer, our family lawyer says he can't believe it, you know, it's awful. In some families, there's such fights after the parents die, you know, and thank God we didn't have such a thing in our family. We really, and I think they respect us very much for what we've done. As my wife said, so to speak, you know, we live the life we believe in to the best of our abilities, and they respect it very much. It's not easy to change. Not easy to change. Not easy to change. They didn't have the same push that we did for some reason, but thank God, at least we have wonderful relations. And I want to tell you, I have a nephew who definitely, to put it mildly, does not see eye to eye with us at all. And he's totally opposed to Torah. He's totally opposed to Torah. But when my father died, it was during a blizzard. It was December 24th, 2010. My father died. It was a huge blizzard. And it took 3 days to bury my father because they couldn't even dig in the ground. It was frozen. It was unbelievable.
Sorry, it was here?
No, it was in New York. It was in New York. And so this nephew of mine, who has no use for anything Jewish, but at the burial was still it was 28 degrees, with 50-mile-an-hour winds, snow blowing all over the place. And he sees that we're shoveling dirt into the grave. And he said to me, "Can I have the shovel?" And he took the shovel, and then he didn't want anyone else to do it. he shoveled all the rest of the dirt in for 20 minutes without gloves on. And he told me this was one of the most amazing experiences of my life. So you just never know. You never know. It's very hard to speak to your own family, but you know, the Torah speaks for itself.
Not everyone is supposed to become a Jew.
Sorry?
Not everyone is supposed to be something. Is that how we meet?
It's true. It's true. Not, the lady said not everyone has the merit to become. It's such a privilege to become and to. I want to tell you, people. You know, there are many people who say to the who have. I put this nicely, delicately, but they lie to themselves. And they say, I'm happy, and they're not happy. I know when I was a kid, I was not happy at all. And I have this inability to lie to myself. So I can't tell myself I'm happy when I'm not happy. And, you know, you suffer from this sometimes because, you know, it's uncomfortable. You know, if you were upset, you feel upset, and sometimes it's not, you're not so happy to feel upset. But your neshama feels it and you can't help it. But I'm happy that Hashem gave me this personality where I couldn't lie. I couldn't tell myself I'm happy when I'm not happy. And thank God, because of that, you know, Hashem pushed us. There's no, what else is in the Torah? We tried everything else. So you have to,
I haven't even finish up, but you all have a plan to make Aliyah, correct?
I mean, we spend more time here.
No, you didn't mention it at all. I mean, you all we stepped with the most beautiful show. I really enjoyed every single word of it. So beautiful that I came. I showed how great I was to come over me. Josh. But it was people wouldn't come with me because they were so big. But that's for the Jews. And when I bring Mashiach, by showing we're proud to live here. I didn't actually hear you say that. Like you said, we have to learn more Torah. We got to be nice to each other.
Okay.
What I tell my friends in America is that religion is not coming to your door, Mashiach. It's not happening now.
Okay, so look, let me put it this way. We all do our best. You know, we have children in America and we have children here. We have work in America and we have work here. I want to tell you something that Moshe Sternbuch told me, who was the head of the Haredis and who was a very famous gadol in Yerushalaim. It was 3 years ago. It was just after Shavuos, and we were going that night back to America. And I was very upset. I didn't want to leave. And that day, someone brought me to see him. And Rabbi Sternbuch said to me, and I told him, Rebbe, I'm very upset. I don't want to leave. He said, Yisrael, I'm telling you, you're a soldier, and a soldier has to go where the battle is. So, I want to tell you, we speak in America, we do our work in America, and we have what to do there. So, we try our best. We have to be where the battle is and do our best.
We're here many months out of the year, almost half the year. We're here, we're back and forth. Our children, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren are here and America. So our work of reaching out to our people, we've spoken not only in America and here, but in 15 countries in the world, the former Soviet Union and England, France and Canada and Mexico. And we Baruch Hashem, many people have come much closer, have become observant of the Shabbos now, have grown so much step by step because of our work. So, as Rabbi Sternbuch says, we have to go where the battle is, and our battle is a world battle that we're doing. Good job, thank you very much.
One last question.
Thank you. Yes.
When you grew up, did you, or in college, did you meet any religious Jews or Chabadnik or someone? And what did you think?
In those days, was it?
I tell you, when we grew up, I told you I never grew up yet, but I'm trying. But my wife is working on it. So I was not conscious of having I mean, first of all, we avoided Jews. We avoided Jews.
The Jews are all secular Jews like us.
We avoided Jews who were religious Jews. But there weren't so many around. It was a different world then. The Upper East Side of Manhattan today is filled with religious Jews. You see Yahwehs all over the place. But when I was little, it was much less so. When I was young, it was much less so. But we consciously avoided Jews. And when you're living that life where you really want to deny you're Jewish, we wanted to deny we're Jewish. That's how my family grew up. My wife's family was not quite as extreme, but we wanted to deny we're Jewish. So you don't even notice. You tune it out. You tune it out. I didn't want to have anything to do with it. And if I had seen a religious Jew, I would have felt like, that person's from Mars, and I don't want to have it, anything to do with it. And then, when you finally realize, you go through all these experiences, and you realize that nothing else works, then all of a sudden you look with new eyes. The way we look, coming to Eretz Yisrael, as my wife said, when we in 1974, when up to that point, we thought, the Jews stole Israel from the Arabs. We have a totally different view of Israel. Now, there are tons of Jews today who feel that way. I don't have to tell you. But all of a sudden, when you realize that you personally, I have been wrong my whole life, in rejecting, rejecting Torah and rejecting other Jews, then everything changes in an instant. Yeah.
Actually, we never had the opportunity to meet a person, an observant Jew. I just remember, the only closest thing I remember is that driving to Manhattan with my parents, my mother pointed to Williamsburg and said, those are Hasidic Jews. It was like, it was another species, I don't know. But we never had the opportunity to meet anybody who was observant. Actually, the circles we grew up in were so secular that we never even met anybody who believed in God. That's how the world we were in. Totally assimilated Americans, and we were, like top students in the finest, as I said, the finest universities, and we never had an opportunity to meet anybody who was observant.
Thank you very much.